Get ready to take flight and soar through the vertical skies with the ultimate list of the best flying games and plane games for 2023. With 10 adrenaline-pumping titles that will leave you breathless. You'll be able to experience the thrill of dogfighting, perform death-flying stunt, and master the art of aerial combat like never before. Strap yourself in, put your aviator shades, and get ready for a gaming experience that will take you to the new height. Are you ready to see which games make the cut? Let's find it out. Before I start my video, I would like to say that I got my first subscriber. Whoever you subscribed to me, thank you so much from the core of my heart. This is my first milestone. Number 10. Star Wars. Star Wars Squadron offers a short but a sweet campaign that will keep you entertained from start to finish. However, it's multiplayer action that will keep you coming back for more. The game is easy to get into, but it offers a relatively high skill ceiling that will challenge even the most experienced players. One of the things that Star Wars Squadron sets apart from the other flying game is that the fantastic feeling of gracefully taking down your foes while managing your power distribution, making it easy to pilot your ship through the intense battles. The game also offers a variety of ships to choose from, each with its own strength and weaknesses. While the campaign is short, it's well worth playing through. The story is engaging and missions are varied, with plenty of opportunities to show off your piloting skills. You'll get to fly both in Empire and New Republic, which offers a nice change and pace and adds some variety to your gameplay. The multiplayer, where Star Wars Squadron really shines. There are several different modes that you can choose from, including dogfighting and fleet battles. The matchmaking is quick and the action is intense. It's clear that a lot of care and attention was put into the multiplayer aspect of the game, and it shows. It's worth noting that gamers' post-launch plans don't currently extend it beyond the simple cosmetics. While this is a shame, it doesn't detract you from the overall experience too much. Number 9. Bomber Crew. Bomber Crew puts you into the shoe of crew manager, where your primary goal is to successfully complete bombing raids and get back to England with minimal casualties, and ensure you're flying in the right direction and height. The game is available on all major platforms like PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. The gameplay of Bomber Crew is both challenging and rewarding. You will need to select the crew members, train them, and assign them to different positions such as gunners, navigator, and engineer. You will need to manage their health, stamina, and morale over through the game. The game's difficulty is such that even the smallest mistake will quickly lead you to death of your crew, sadly. The missions are varied and each mission is procedurally generated, which keeps the game fresh and exciting. You will need to battle enemy fighter planes, avoid anti-aircraft fire, and make sure you're flying in the right direction and height. The game's graphics are cartoonish, but the intensity of the gameplay is far from it. One of the best things about Bomber Crew is the depth of the gameplay. You will need to manage your crew, your plane, and your mission objectives simultaneously. The game is challenging, but never unfair. The controls are smooth, and the game is accessible to all levels of players. One of the downsides of the Bomber Crew is that the graphics may not be appeal to everyone. The game is challenging and some players may find it frustratingly difficult. In conclusion, Bomber Crew is an intense World War II strategy game that will test your skills as a crew manager. The game is challenging, rewarding, and accessible to all levels of players. If you're a fan of strategy games, then you should definitely check out Bomber Crew. Coming up next, Superflight. Let's start with the gameplay mechanics. Superflight is one of the most relaxing games all around, despite of its premise. The controls are simple and intuitive, with the goal of being fly as close to rock formation as possible without crashing. The procedurally generated levels are ensured that there are always a scene of discovery and unpredictability. And if you find a seed that you particularly like, you can save it and challenge your friends to beat your score. While the game is certainly challenging, it never is frustrating, and the sense of flow you get when you are soaring through the air is truly something special. Let's talk about the graphics and sound next. Superflight has a minimalist art style that's both charming and effective. The mountain range you fly through are rendered in simple, brightly colored polygons that contrast nicely with the serene blue sky. The sound design is similarly understated, with the sound of wind pushing past your ears and the occasional thud of near miss adding to the immersive experience. While there aren't any major technical issues or glitches, it's worth noting that the gamer's visual can get a bit repetitive after a while. Moving on the stories and characters. Well, there aren't any. Superflight is all about the sensation of flight, and the lack of narrative depth does not detract you from the overall experience. So, what's the verdict? In my opinion, Superflight is definitely worth playing. It's relaxing, meditative experience that's perfect for winding down after a long day. The gameplay is simple but addicting, and the scene of flow you get when you are in the zone is truly something special. The graphics and sound are underrated but effective, and while the lack of story and characters may be turn off for some players, I think it's a minor issue in the grand scheme of things. To sum up, if you're looking for a game that's all about sensation of flight, Superflight is definitely worth checking out. It's a game that's easy to pick up but difficult to put down, and the feeling of soaring through the air is truly something special. Up next, X-Plane 11. X-Plane 11 is a flight simulator game that offers an incredible realistic flight experience. It's a modern take on Flight Simulator X with much improved graphics, cockpit models, and a menu system that won't leave you frustrated. But X-Plane 11 is not just about flying, it also allows players to experience the thrill of aviation on the ground with its attention to detail on everything from carrying trucks to cargo lorries. X-Plane 11 is obviously a flight simulation game, so naturally the gameplay revolves around flying planes. The game also offers a wide range of planes to choose from, and each plane has its own unique flight characteristics. The game also features different weather conditions, airports, and runways that players can take off and land from. The gameplay mechanics are detailed and realistic, allowing players to experience the full range of challenges that comes with flying a plane. Players will have to navigate through turbulence, adjust their altitude, speed, and direction, and avoid obstacles in their paths. The graphics in X-Plane 11 is top-notch, with the detail and realistic visual that makes players feel like they're really flying. The cockpit models are particularly impressive, with detailed instrumentation and controls that look and feel like a real thing. The sound effect of X-Plane 11 is also excellent, with the realistic engine sounds, air traffic control chatter, and the ambient noise that adds to the immersive experience of flying a plane. X-Plane 11 is a simulation game, so it doesn't really have a story or characters. However, players can choose their own stories and characters as they take on various challenges in the game. Overall, X-Plane 11 is an excellent flying simulator game that offers an immersive and realistic flying experience. The attention to detail in the game is impressive, with everything from the graphics to sound effects contributing the overall realism of the game. If you're a fan of flight simulator game, then X-Plane 11 is definitely worth playing. It's challenging, engaging, and most importantly, it's a lot of fun. So, we highly recommended giving it a try. Coming up next, Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown. Ace Combat 7 gameplay is all about dogfighting and completing campaign missions, which are set in a fictional world where countries are at war over limited resources. The controls are simple and easy to pick up, and there are several difficulty levels to cater to different players' skill levels. The game offers a range of aircraft to choose from, each with its own unique characteristics and weapon loadout. The gameplay is fast-paced and thrilling, with a lot of explosions and special effects. The game's graphics are top-notch, with detailed aircraft models and environments that look authentic and realistic. The sound effects and music are also impressive, with the sound of engine roaring and missile launching adding to the overall immersive experience. However, the story is a bit confusing and doesn't make much sense, so don't expect a deeper narrative. As mentioned before, the story is not the Ace Combat 7's strong point. It's convoluted and hard to follow, with many references to previous games in the series that new players won't understand. The characteristics are also forgettable, with no real development and depth. Despite of its shortcoming in story and character development, Ace Combat 7: Skies Unknown is a fun, engaging arcade-style fighter game to play. The gameplay is exciting and accessible, and the graphics and sound design are top-notch. If you're a fan of a genre that don't mind a nostalgic story, then Ace Combat 7 is definitely worth checking out. However, if you're looking for a depth and immersive experience, you may want to look elsewhere. Overall, we recommend Ace Combat 7: Skies Unknown to anyone looking for a fun and exciting arcade-style fighter game. The game's graphics and sound designs are impressive, and gameplay is engaging and accessible. However, the story and characters have a lot to be desired, so don't expect a deep narrative. Coming up next, Arma 3. Arma 3 may not have the same depth of mechanics and some of the other hardcore flying games on this list, but the flight physics and combat mechanics are still top-notch. Air-to-air combat is all about managing your position and using variety of missiles to take down targets from high above the battlefield. On the other hand, air-to-ground aircraft has a significant role, with modern tech like guided missiles and anti-armor cannons making good pilots essential on the battlefield. There are plenty of helicopters should you tire of airplanes. The graphics in Arma 3 are stunning, with the realistic detailed aircraft and environments that help you to immerse in the gaming world. The sound effects are equally impressive. With the roaring jet engines, explosions, and gunfire all adding to the intense atmosphere. While the Arma 3 doesn't have a traditional story, the gamer setting and context are grounded in the realism. You play as a soldier in the military conflict, fighting on the behalf of one of two factions. While the game doesn't have a deep focus on the character development, the world is filled with plenty of engine NPCs and soldiers that help bring the conflict to life. Overall, Arma 3 offers a unique, intense experience that definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of military games or flight simulators. Overall, Arma 3 offers a unique, intense experience that definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of military games or flight simulators. While it may not have the same level of depth of some other games on this list, the realistic combat machines and stunning visual make it stand out. The game does not require a significant amount of time and dedication to master, but it's well worth if you're up to the challenge. If you're looking for a military game that lets you to take the skies and engage in the intense combat, then Arma 3 is definitely worth picking up. It may not be accessible as some of the other games on this list, but level of depth and realism is unmatched. Give it a try to see yourself. Up next, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Let's start with the gameplay. Microsoft Flight Simulator is a true simulation game, which means it is very detailed and requires a lot of patience and practice to master. The game allows you to pilot a wide range of aircraft, from small single-engine planes to large commercial airlines. The controls are realistic and take some time to get used to, but once you do, you will find that the game is incredibly immersive. One of the standout features of the gameplay is that game's incredible attention to details, with accurate and realistic recreation of the real-world location and landmarks. Moving on to graphics and sounds, Microsoft Flight Simulator is a stunningly beautiful game. The graphics are incredibly realistic with detailed environment and stunning weather effects. The sound design is also top-notch, with realistic engine noises and ambient sounds that add to the immersion. However, there are some technical issues with the game, such as long loading time and occasional crashes. Now let's talk about stories and characters. As a simulation game, Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't have a traditional story or characters. Instead, the game focuses on the experience of flying and exploring the world. However, the game's attention to detail and realistic recreation of the new world location makes it feel you are truly traveling to different places and experiencing the world from a new perspective. So, what did I think about the Flight Simulator? Overall, I think it's an incredible game that definitely worth playing. The attention to the detail and realism of the gameplay makes it one of the most immersive and enjoyable simulation game I have ever played. However, the technical issues and occasional crashes can be frustrating, and the game may not be for everyone due to its slow pace and emphasis on the realism. If you're interested in trying out for yourself, it's currently available on Game Pass. In conclusion, Microsoft Flight Simulator is a must-play game for anyone who loves simulation games or is interested in aviation. While it may not be perfect, the game's attention to the details and immersive gameplay make it one of the most impressive and enjoyable simulation games available today. I highly recommend giving it a try. And finally, War Thunder. War Thunder has been around for over 7 years now, and in that time, developer Gaijin has continued to update and expand the game's roster of planes, tanks, and ships. In this review, I'll be covering the gameplay, graphics and sound, story and characters, and my overall impression about the game. Let's start with the gameplay. War Thunder is a multiplayer game, requires real dogfight tactics and maneuvers to survive. The game features a huge range of authentic aircraft from 8 different nations across 6 classes. So there is a lot of variety in the gameplay. The flight physics are realistic, ballistic modelings are top-notch, which makes the game feel incredibly immersive. Whether you're flying a nimble fighter or heavy bomber, you will need to master your Split S and other maneuver to stay alive in the chaotic multiplayer skirmishes. One of the standout features of War Thunder is that its inclusion of tanks and naval battles. The vehicular warfare is so well done that the War Thunder has even made our list of the best tank games on PC. The tanks and ships are just detailed and authentic as the planes, and game's attentions to details and physics and ballistic modeling make this battle feel just immersive as the aerial combat. Moving on to graphics and sound, War Thunder looks and sounds great. The graphics are realistic and detailed, with attention paid to the smallest details and cockpit instruments and weather effects. The sound design is top-notch, with realistic engine noises and explosions that adds to the immersion. Now let's talk about stories and characters. War Thunder is a multiplayer game, so there isn't really a traditional story or characters. However, the game focuses on authentic vehicles and historical battles, make it feel you're participating in a larger historical narrative. So what did I think about the War Thunder? Overall, I think it's an incredible game that is definitely worth playing. The attention to the detail and realism of the gameplay makes it one of the most immersive and enjoyable vehicular combat games out there. However, the multiplayer aspect can be frustrating at times, especially if you are just starting out and just going against more experienced players. But with practice and perseverance, you can become a skilled pilot, tanker, or a naval captain. In conclusion, War Thunder is a must-play game for anyone who loves vehicular combat games or is interested in aviation, tanks, or naval battles. The game's attention to detail and immersive gameplay make it one of the best free-to-play games out there. I highly recommend giving it a try. Thanks for watching. This is your host Mohammad Mehran, and see you in the next video.